Hey guys, GhazzyTV here with another Path of Exile video. In this one, I'm going to be talking about the harvest farming strategy guide for you to make currency. Whether or not you want to put investment of currency into this farming strategy or not, you can still make money running this specific farm strategy with or without. Doesn't really matter. Before I move on any further, I just want to point out that in the descriptions down below is a link to the written guide for the strategy. So if there's any changes or anything like that, that will be reflected in the written version moving forward. And in there is also a so-called cheat sheet, basically a list of items that you can utilize your harvest craft on, that you can check on the market if it's something that is profitable or worth it to use for you. So without further ado, let's just kick into it. So there's a couple of things you first need to understand when it comes to harvest farming and making currency out of this specific strategy, and that is that harvest is the specific focus of the farm strat, but in the backline of your Atlas tree, we're actually going to make sure that the tree itself is going to generate currency for us no matter what we do with the maps, allowing you to alch and go any map you want to run and still make currency no matter what you do. And the next part of this strategy is to understand the Hoardy crafting station. And this will all be in detail in the written description, in the written guide in the descriptions below. And for example, you can only have 10 saved crafts at a given time. However, you can make this 15 by purchasing a Sacred Blossom and killing Oshabi, which is the harvest boss. They go for Bad and Exalted. You get one of these with this tree when you encounter a boss in the harvest. However, I've been farming this for a few days now, and I've killed them. I killed so many harvest crops and only encountered the boss twice, which is why I have gotten 2 of these influence crafts, which is from that specific boss. So that is how you get it from 10 to 15. However, some builds might not be able to kill it, so keep that in mind. Normally, you would sit with 10 crafts instead of 15. So that's basically how it works, and you can save these crafts, and you can utilize them for services for people, or you can use them on your own items without needing to be inside an actual map itself. The baseline of the tree is very simple. The current tree I am running is designed to force harvest into it, but before I talk about the harvest nodes, I just want to point out that when it comes to having a tree in the Atlas that is not having all of the points, you would simply remove points such as the regurgitated relics as well as etched by acid, removing all of these. You would also drop the martial forces. You would also start dropping the synthesized map nodes over here, and potentially taking away, if you're not using the maps, you would also remove these nodes as well. So there's plenty of nodes to be removed in case you don't have a full Atlas tree and are playing this on a lower level. The other aspect of this, like I mentioned, is to have a backline currency making strategy. In our case, we are forcing out strong boxes to get operative strong boxes, as well as corrupted strong boxes. This gives us a ton of scarabs, and the corrupted ones gives us a ton of sixlings for extra divine orbs. The other process is, of course, to get harbingers in here, which allows us to generate passive amount of currency from just running the maps themselves. So those are our backline currency making strategies, and then we're adding harvest on top of this, on top of the actual Eater of Worlds, which also nets us an income of a lot of extra scarabs. When it comes to the harvest, though, there are 2 different ways of doing this, and in the written guide there will be links to 2 different trees, one for forcing and one without forcing. And when we're forcing the Sacred Grove in the maps, we don't need nodes like Call of the Grove, which increases the chance for us to spawn in the actual grove in the map. However, if you are not forcing, nodes like this will be very attractive. Instead, I'm actually using in all the other nodes that gives us better options for the sake of crafting and giving us better chances for additional crafting options and stuff like that, which is the main focus of the harvest nodes. So all about the trees in detail in the written guide. So basically, what is the juicing versus no juicing strategy? When I say no juicing, I mean that you're setting up your tree to have an increased chance of spawning harvest when you're popping every map. And what you would simply do is take whichever map you want to run. The popular ones currently is Promenade, as well as Port Maps and Cemetery. And you would just put an alch orb on them, verify that your build can do it, and say, hey, I'm going to play this map. You would just simply put that in your map device, and then you would either decide to pseudo juice it by clicking on the ambush, for example, or just run the top one and just go with a map like this. And in case you spawn, make sure you have Eater Worlds actually. And then if you spawn a harvest in there, well, there's money. And if you don't spawn harvest, thanks to the strong boxes and harbingers, you're gonna make currency running it like this. When it comes to juicing, however, there's a couple of different things you can do, such as utilizing scarabs, and in our case, with us running with the Harbinger and Strongboxes being our backline or backbone of the strategy, we would then want to use scarabs in that sense, either rusted or polished, the two worst ones basically, to alleviate as much pressure on our investment as possible, just running them very small juicing and not making them too hard for us to handle. The other aspect of this is the forcing versus no forcing. And to force the harvest, now you're going to be talking about two very specific types of sextants. These sextants are in the form of this one right here, which is areas contains the sacred grove. The other one is in form of this one, which is plants harvested areas are more likely to give less common crafting options. And these comes in 3 different versions. One is for purple plants, one is for yellow plants, and the third one, which is very expensive and not really worth it for this specific guide, is blue ones, which is the one I'm running because I'm doing some House of Mirror gambling at the moment. So basically, I would strongly recommend the purple when you're choosing to force, because the purple gives you 4 different crafts, which is reforge more or less likely. The more likely you're selling for about 20 chaos, whilst the other 2 crafts that I haven't mentioned is reforge keep suffix and reforge keep prefix, which sells for 1 to up to 1.5 exalteds each, and they're not that uncommon. That's why I would recommend this. The reason we're looking for this with 4 uses is because in case we were juicing it, we would actually make sure to spec into the Enduring Influence to allow our own sextant to last 1 more round. In my case, I have the 16 use blue, which is the more expensive version, and I have that one popped, so I'll explain how the process works. So when you use or force a map, what you want to do is you take your sextants and you roll that on 2 different maps first. And then I can verify that I don't want any of these, I don't care about the barrels, and I don't want the uniques. However, if you want to save currency, you would just leave them in and play with them. In my case, I want to have anything that increases the monster's quantity or pack size or quality. So in this case, I take this one, I get some beyond, and I roll this one, and I see that I get more rarity. No, not really. But in this case, quality bonus of the map also applies to rarity items found. I don't want that. I'll move on to this one. This gives me 6 additional packs of monsters. I'll keep that. The reason we're only rolling 2 is because the next step is to use these charged compass. I already have the blue one placed. Then I will take the areas contain the sacred grove, smack that one in there. And this means that the next 4 maps will be guaranteed providing the sacred grove for me. Now that I've decided to force it, which is why my tree does not pick up nodes such as the Call of the Grove, I will then be making sure to decide, am I going to juice it up with the sake of scarabs? And in this case, I will do that just to show you the process. Now, normally I would run with a rusted or polished. You can even go with a gilded. I'll be doing the polished to show you the pseudo, very cheap juicing strategy. I usually take a stack of the rusted divination scarabs. They're very cheap. They also drop very commonly, so I don't never buy them. They're just existing in my stash, so I just use them. I do buy the polished harbingers, and then I can pop some cartography if I want to drop more maps. I can just not use a scarab. I can simply just take a stack of these instead and run with that if I wanted to. And in many cases, you might not have 5 slots in your map device, in which case you only have 3 other options. In this case, with the 3 I would run in that case. The reason I'm using the divination is because of Brothers Stash divination card from the maps. However, if you are running this in a sequence where you're not juicing, I would just alch and go. If you're using scarabs, I believe it is very important that you make sure that you run with 4 actual maps that is above the quality or quantity of 80%. Now, the reason for this is to make the most out of your scarabs. So if you look at these maps, I forgot the quality of them, which is very important. And what I'm doing when rolling these maps is to make sure that they're over 80%, such as this one. And now I have the option to vol orbit if I want to. I will be doing that, but you don't have to. But 80% or higher quantity is recommended. Now that I've confirmed that my maps have 80% or higher quantity and I have my scarabs ready to pop, I will then verify that I have in fact gotten my sextant ready. 2 of them are random with extra monsters, and one is with the blue crafts and the other one is with guaranteed sacred groves. And now I know the next 4 maps I'll pop will do that for me. So I'll go to the map device, I smack in my juicing materials, and I have my last map open for this. I'll scroll down, make sure that I click ambush for the juicing purposes, and make sure that I have the Eat Our Worlds clicked. If you have, you can also pop in some bestiaries and even Alva if you want to increase the quantity of monsters in the area. And then you would run the map. And then once you run the map, you will then be in a position where you tackle the the actual Sacred Grove. Eater Worlds is very effective when it comes to the situation of allowing you to get the Eldritch monsters to drop extra scarabs, which is one of the best ways to make currency out of Eater Worlds, in my opinion. However, some maps such as Cemetery allows you to go to the point where you can actually skip killing monsters and just run to the boss first if your build is able to do so. Now, the reason why this is such a good strategy is because once you've killed the boss, the altars that is spawned by the rituals from the altars spawned by the Eater of Worlds, they no longer give you any option in that it has anything to do with the boss, which gives you the higher probability of getting yourself the good options such as the scarab ones and whatnot to allow you to make more currency generically out of the map, because you're not getting the bonus from the boss, which is sort of usually in the form of extra unique items, a little bit of currency, maybe 2 or 3 scarabs. It's not really that much to celebrate. However, if you do get an altar that has nothing to do with the boss, you can get one that it has for Eldritch minions, in this case dropping additional Eater Worlds implicit, or the player gains increased quantity and rarity. And since we are farming for the sake of making a lot of currency generically, we would take the top one in this case to get the extra quantity and rarity out of the map. So that is a simple way for you to make more currency, and this also works very well with the Arch Nemesis recipes in the current state of the league. Now that the map has been cleared, we can verify that we did get a 6th link, which gives us a Divine Orb. We drop a Polished Divination Scarab, which is currently 6 Chaos, a Rusted Ambush, which is 3.3, a couple of maps for us, some Alch Orbs, another Rusted Divination, that's 1 Chaos, 4 Exalted Shards being 32 Chaos, a couple of Void cards, 6 Chaos Pure, some Elder Chaos are worthless, Polished Elder is also worthless, a Blight Scarab that is 1 C, and a Reliquary going for half a Chaos, and 2 Awakened Sextants, which is about 4.3 Chaos each. So this is the generic income that we're getting from just running the actual map itself, and this is before I've killed everything in the actual Sacred Grove. In the Sacred Grove, however, we will be looking at different ways of making money. Like I told you before, I would prefer, for the sake of making currency, to actually run with a Reforged craft, which is called a Wild Spikeback. This is from the purple ones. This is the big one that actually has a high probability of generating currency. However, in my case, I am farming the divination cards, so I'll be popping this one, and I'll talk about the other crafts. But this is the one you want to aim for if you want to make quick buck with this. And on top of the written guides or suggestions when it comes to actually getting harvest craftable items. So in this case, we'll kill it up, we get some extra currency, further juicing up the money we make on the map. In this case, I didn't get what I was looking for. However, crafts like this actually sells very effectively and rather quickly for between 5 up to 15 chaos each early in the league. In the current state of the league, which is a little over a month into the league, they're a bit harder to sell, so it's not something I generally recommend that you keep. However, if you look at the written guide for this, there is several different items that you can use these on. So for example, when it comes to the defense craft, you can then look at the approach of these by checking the primal Roa, and they can be great on ES bases or shields. So if I look at what I have available, for example, I can go to my profit crafting tab. I can use them on jewels for that matter as well. That gives me energy shield. If I'm looking for an ES based jewel, I can run them on different types of shields, and in this case it's not an ES pure based shield, and you can run them on boots or gloves or helmets, whichever you want to have a high amount of energy shield on, and simply just roll these till you get something that you're looking for, in this case energy shield. But I know that these jewels, they want the minion damage when you use the minion shield recently, so in this case it would take a little bit more work to it. We have lightning crafts. I can then search for lightning, and I can see they're great for omniscience bases, amulets, and reforges. They're also really good for cluster jewels in general, which there's a note about in the guide as well. For example, this one is a cold, so I would rather use cold reforge than this one specifically. So we can just move on to the next one and see. I don't have any that I want from here. I have some physical here. So in this case, it doesn't really matter that much. However, this is where TFT comes comes in to be very handy. Now, TFT, there's a link in the descriptions in the written guide. If you go to TFT, I'm not going to show you in this video how TFT works. However, if you go to Harvest Wants to Sell, and I click on this tab, I can then search for Upgrade, and I say Upgrade Magic. You can see that these crafts here, Upgrade Magic, adding 3, that's not the one I was referring to, but we have one here. Upgrade Normal to Magic, no. Magic to Rare with 2 modifiers is selling for 50 Chaos, and they're selling They're selling fast. They're going for a lot of currency and they sell very effectively. And this is because it's very commonly used when it comes to the use of crafting jewelries. These crafts are actually not that rare. So we're going to clear this off and I'll show you some of these crafts real quick as well, so you guys get a little bit of a view of how that looks. I just forgot this map actually hurts. So in this case, I got a magic item adding up to 3. And if we look at the upgrade magic, we can see that the adding 3, someone's trying to get 40 chaos, 20 chaos for this one. That's normal. So it has to be magic into 3. Magic 2 sold. Magic adding 3, 25 chaos. That seems to be selling for 20, for 25C. Somebody bought that one. Upgrade magic adding 4. There's one adding 3 for 20C. As you can see, this one was posted before the top one that we saw earlier, and that one hasn't sold. So maybe it doesn't sell. However, as long as you have room, you can click on this button and save it in your hoarder crafting station. And if it doesn't sell, you can just use it yourself or just remove it eventually. The big one here is upgrading to 2, because then it works on actual abyssal jewels, for example. So we're just going to move to the next one and show you this entire Sacred Grove so you guys get a little bit of a hang of how this works. Lucky crafts can give you a random set of different crafts, such as Reforge Keep Lucky, Augment Lucky crafts and stuff like that, which is not specific to, which is not just specific to this Lucky craft, but you can find them elsewhere. But for the Lucky one, they can actually nibble in on the other crafts that doesn't exist. However, it is obviously rather lucky to get this. In this case here, we have 2 upgrades. So if I were to choose between these 2 for profit, I would choose this one because it has lucky as well as 2 upgrade crafts, just like this one. If they don't exist, then I'm only looking at the quantity of crafts. If these didn't exist, this one has 7 crafts, 3 defense, 4 chaos. This one has 6 crafts, 5 lightning, 1 chaos. So I would still just take this left one. You get the hang of it as you get more accustomed to how this mechanic works, and once you get learning how these things sell. In this case right there, magic item 2 item modifiers, we already verified that was about 50 chaos. So this one here pays for a lot of the investments. I'm going to talk about how to juice them and how the investment is in a bit either way. Reroll values, not very good. The normal items, not very good. Then we have reforges. Use them on some items if you don't want to sell them. And this is where the good idea that I think is best to use for this is that it's a combination of selling crafts on TFT and using them yourself. So in this case, I would sell this one and I would literally just use these on whatever base items I have available to me and go from there. Next harvest plot, we have defense lightning 5. We have 4 defense. This one is better quantity. However, this one has a lucky, so I will prioritize that. And the other one was useless. So this is the play in here. Popping these, going ham, picking up the loot, get the map, and check the crafts. In this case, we got reroll values lucky, completely useless. Reforge, completely useless. So in my first map, out of the sellable outcomes that I believe would be selling very fast are not the reforge that you can try to sell them. I don't think that you can't rely on these for selling this late in the league. So this one gave us about 50 chaos of profit from the upgrade magic into 2 modifiers. Now with this information, we need to look at how much does this actually cost per map. So I'm using the blue one, which is a bit specific. We talked about the Sacred Blossom to get 15 stacks. However, if you are buying Sacred Grove, you can actually do so on the market by making sure that you search for... I'm going to take this entirely away. You search for Sacred Grove, just like this. Search for this. Make sure you scroll down and check the buyout price to be in Chaos Orbs. Otherwise, you're going to get a bunch of them selling for Awakened Sextants. Click on the search. And then click on the magnifying glass, take away your original search, and then click 4 in the use remaining. Then search again. As you can see, these are going for 120, 130, 140 chaos. This means that that's the payment for 4 maps. So you would have to take your price, let's say it was 135 divided by 4, puts you on a price range of 33.7 chaos. So let's say you're paying 35C per map just to get this. So in this specific harvest, we can already verify that that's one sellable craft just gave us about 20 chaos in profit, a little bit more. That's one craft that was sellable, which was rather bad. But you also got to use all the other crafts, as well as the fact that you're making currency from just running the map in by itself. This is not all the juicing. In my case, I had some scarabs, which I have to compare to my map drops and not the harvest crafts. So if we're strictly looking at the harvest crops and the profit we get from those, this was an investment of 34 chaos, 35 chaos for the sake of getting the harvest, but I'm also using one that forces harvests to be of a certain kind and having more chance of less common crafts. In my case, I am doing this with the blue craft. So the way you search for this is to do search for less common crafts and then take in that one. And if you search for this and then click on the magnifying glass, this is what shows up. Make sure you search for 4 remaining, choose which color you want, and if you want purple, which I think is the best for currency making, which is not what I was doing blue, you can see that they're going for 8 up to 10 chaos a piece. If you see a bunch of these show up, just remember, go down here and search for chaos orbs instead in this buyout price to remove those from the search window. You can buy these with 16 charges to avoid buying too many because they're going for pretty much nothing. So even the purple ones are super cheap. But again, the ones I've been running have been blue, which is netting me a little bit less currency when it comes to the actual crops themselves. So if you know that the 4 maps for 8 chaos, that's 2 more chaos. So even with that investment, I can already verify that 1 craft just gave me 20 chaos profit for this map alone from the harvest crafts themselves. And that was a bad result. Now, with that out of the way, I wanted to talk about the actual written guide itself. There's a lot of information with the Atlas trees with or without sextants. The strategy goes through in detail. The crafts that you can utilize, the bosses, what the name they are. They have when you see the crops as well. So you can be prepared for that. There's some different strategies in terms of different crafting items that you can utilize. There's a TLDR section and some final notes in the written guide. So do make sure to check out the written guide in the descriptions below. Let me know in the chat as well in the comments and see what you guys tell me what you guys feel about guides like this. I'm going to try to keep this as short as possible. I hope you had use of it. If you have any questions, feel free to post here on YouTube. Feel free to ask in the written guide as well. And it will be posting a lot more currency making guides, as well as crafting guides and more build guides and mechanical guides in the written guide hub, which is also linked in the descriptions below, which you can access and looks like this. This is the biggest one-stop shop of guides ever made in Path of Exile. We have 20-ish build guides available. We have tons of crafting guides, so generic ones and advanced crafting guides, currency making guides, endgame guides, everything you can ask for. And this guide page or hub page is growing by the day. So make sure you check that out as well. That's all I have for you today. So without further ado, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe for more content. Until next time, stay safe and keep rocking.